the ghost of Fifth Street. The smell of old newsprint and burnt espresso usually acted as my sensory shield. It was the scent of a peaceful life, one where I sat in the back of the lecture hall, took my notes, and remained entirely invisible. Then Leo Morgan walked into the room, and my piece didn't just leave, it was dragged out back and executed. He looked exactly the same, which was the most insulting part. The same messy dark hair that looked like he'd spent an hour making it look like he'd just woken up. The same look at me energy that radiated off him like heat from a radiator. He was a theater major. Of course he was. He was a walking, breathing melodrama. I kept my head down, staring intensely at my blank cursor. Don't look up. If you don't acknowledge the anomaly cannot hurt you. Daniel Foster. The voice was deeper than I remembered. The cadence was unmistakable. It was the voice that used to shout my name over backyard fences. The voice that had promised we'd be best friends forever before vanishing into a moving van 10 years ago without so much as a text message. "I'm busy, Leo," I said, my voice flat. "Busy staring at a blinking line? Wow, your life is just an adrenaline rush, isn't it?" He slid into the seat next to me, invading my personal bubble with the smell of expensive cologne and audacity. "Long time no see, Dan. Don't call me that. And we aren't seeing each other. You are an obstacle in my peripheral vision." Ouch. Sarcasm is still your only personality trait. I see. He grinned, and for a second, I saw the 10-year-old kid who used to steal my juice boxes. I hated him for it. I heard we're in the same multimedia journalism elective. Destiny, right? It's a tragedy, I corrected. Now please go find a stage to stand on. I'm sure there's a spotlight somewhere crying for your attention. Project from hell. The universe isn't just cruel, it's unoriginal. Professor Holloway stood at the front of the room, tapping her stylus against the tablet. "For the semester-long digital storytelling project, I've pre-assigned pairs. I want contrasting perspectives. Conflict breeds good content." I felt a cold dread settle in my stomach. "Foster and Morgan," she announced. Leo let out a theatrical gasp. "Oh, Professor, you're a matchmaker." "I'm a masochist," I muttered, burying my face in my hands. After class, the confrontation was inevitable. We were standing in the crowded courtyard, the sun beating down on us, and I could feel a decade of resentment boiling up to the surface. "I'm doing the research, I'm doing the editing, and you're staying at least 10 feet away from me at all times," I snapped, pivoting to face him. Leo laughed, a loud barking sound that made a few freshmen turn their heads. "Oh, come on. You're doing this." Still the brooding, misunderstood writer. "It's been 10 years, Daniel. Grow up. Grow up. You're the one who left." I shouted. I didn't mean, but my control was fraying. "You moved. You never called. You never wrote. You just erased me. And now you walk in here like you're the protagonist of some coming-of-age movie? You're a footnote, Leo. A boring, annoying footnote." Leo's smile dropped. His eyes flashed with a competitive fire I knew all too well. "I erased you? You were the one who stopped responding to my emails after the first month. I was the one in a new city with no friends, and you couldn't be bothered to type 10 words back to me. I never got any emails, you pathological liar. Maybe because you were too busy being done with everyone to check." Leo stepped closer, his height intimidating if I hadn't known he was afraid of spiders. "You're just a cynical, stuck-up brat who likes playing the victim because it's easier than actually trying, and you're a loud-mouthed, attention-seeking vacuum who sucks the air out of every room he enters." We were inches apart now, breathing heavily, eyes locked in a silent war of who would blink first. Click. I didn't hear it then. I didn't see the girl 3 feet away holding her phone up, her eyes wide with "oh my god" drama energy. I didn't know that within 2 hours, our faces would be on every For You page in the tri-state area. The viral disaster by dinner time. My phone was a vibrator. Notifications were flooding in so fast the screen was warm to the touch. Comment. 12K likes. The way the quiet one, the cute journalist, looks like he wants to punch him or make out with him. I'm screaming. Comment. 8K likes. The tall one is literally smirking while being yelled at. He loves it. He's obsessed. Comment. 5K likes. This is better than any Netflix show. Find out who they are! I stared at the screen in horror. My peaceful life was officially over. I looked at the video. There we were, framed, the golden hour light, looking like we were in the middle of a high-budget climax. My phone buzzed. An unknown number. "Leo, have you seen the views? We're famous, Daniel. I am changing my name and moving to the woods. Don't text me." Leo, too late. Holloway just emailed. She saw the video. She wants to see us in her office tomorrow. She says the public engagement is unprecedented. I dropped my phone on my bed and stared at the ceiling. I could already see where this was going. I was going to be forced to spend every waking hour with the person I hated most in the world, all for the entertainment of a million strangers who thought our mutual loathing was chemistry. I hate him, I said to the empty room, but for the first time in 10 years, I remembered exactly how Leo's eyes crinkled at the corners when he was trying not to laugh. And that was a much bigger problem. The following morning, Professor Holloway's office felt like a deposition room. The air smelled of old paper and the kind of high-stakes academic expectation that made my skin crawl. Leo was already there, leaning back in a wooden chair as if he owned the department. He was wearing a vintage leather jacket and a smirk that made me want to commit a felony. "Ah, Daniel, sit," Holloway said, not looking up from her monitor. She was scrolling. I recognized the blue and white interface of the viral video. "You two have managed to achieve in 12 hours what the university PR department hasn't managed in 3 years. Organic engagement." "It was an argument, Professor," I said, sitting as far from Leo as the chair allowed. "Private, well, semi-private disagreement. It won't happen again." "Oh, it better happen again," she countered, finally looking at me. "The journalism department is struggling for funding. The dean saw those numbers. He wants a series. Behind the scenes, look at student life through the lens of, well, whatever this is. It's a masterclass in repressed longing." Leo chimed in, winking at me. I felt the heat climb up my neck. "It's a restraining order waiting to happen." "Call it what you want," Holloway said, sliding 2 NDAs across the desk. "But for your semester project, you will produce a weekly video diary. 1 prompt per week. If the engagement stays high, you both get an automatic A. If you refuse, I'll find you a much more boring project involving cataloging 1950s microfiche in the basement." Leo signed his name before she even finished the sentence. He used a flourish that took up half the page. I stared at the pen. An automatic A. No more grueling late-night research papers. No more fighting for scraps of attention from teaching assistants. Just existing near Leo. I signed. It felt like selling my soul to a theater kid. The first vlog, we were in the campus park, the neutral zone. Leo had insisted on bringing a professional-grade gimbal and a ring light he'd borrowed from the drama department. I just brought my notebook and a mounting sense of doom. "Okay, Dan, look into the lens and act like you don't want to kill me," Leo said, adjusting the camera angle. "I can't act. That's your job," I snapped. I was sitting on a stone bench, arms crossed. "Just start the recording so we can get this over with." Leo hit the red button. The little light flickered to life. "Hey everyone," Leo said, his voice dropping into that smooth, performative influencer tone. "So apparently the internet thinks we're a dynamic duo. I'm Leo, the talent, and this is Daniel, the human equivalent of a rainy Monday." I looked directly into the camera. "I'm here under duress. If I stop blinking, call the police." Leo laughed, and for a second, it wasn't his actor laugh. It was the short, sharp burst of genuine amusement he used to have when we were 8, and I'd say something mean to a bully. "Prompt for today is impression." Leo read from his phone. "Daniel, what was your first impression of me? And don't say loud." I looked at him, really looked at him. The sunlight was catching the gold flecks in his brown eyes, flecks I hadn't thought about in a decade. "My first impression," I said slowly, "was that you were a nuisance. You lived 3 houses down, and you tried to jump off your roof into a pile of leaves. I thought, this kid is gonna die, and I'm going to have to watch it." Leo's grin softened. "I remember that. You ran over with a first aid kit you stole from your mom." "I didn't want the blood on our sidewalk," I muttered. "Liars go to hell, Daniel," Leo teased, leaning closer in my space. The camera caught everything, the way I stiffened, the way his eyes lingered on my face a second too long. "My first impression of you. I thought you were the loneliest person I'd ever seen. You were sitting on your porch with a book twice the size of your head. I decided right then that I was going to make you talk to me if it was the last thing I did." "Mission accomplished," I said, my voice drier than sandpaper. "You never stopped talking, even when you moved away. You just stopped talking me." The silence that followed was heavy. The vlog atmosphere shifted instantly. The playful banter hit a brick wall of 10 years of silence. Leo's hand, which had been gesturing wildly, stilled. He looked at the camera, then back at me. "The connection went both ways, Dan. I have to go to the library," I said, standing up abruptly. I didn't care if the camera was still rolling. I didn't care about the automatic A. I walked away, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The comments section, 2 hours later. I was hiding in my dorm room, the lights off, scrolling through the uploaded footage Leo had edited and posted with lightning speed. 4:12. The way Daniel's voice cracked when he mentioned Leo moving away. My heart is in pieces. 4:45. Did you see Leo's face? He looked like slapped. This isn't just enemies. This is history. 5:20s. Look at the 5:15 mark. When Daniel walks away, Leo reaches out like he wants to grab his hand but stops himself. I am sobbing. I paused the video at 5:15. The camera was still on the bench. In the corner of the frame, I was a retreating shadow, and there was Leo's hand half extended, fingers twitching, reaching into the empty air I had just occupied. He looked devastated. I threw my phone across the bed. I wasn't to see that. We were supposed to be enemies. It was easier when he was just a loud, annoying stranger with a familiar face. But as I sat there in the dark, I realized the internet was right about one thing. We weren't flirting, we were bleeding. Progress note. The narrative is building the history aspect of their relationship, moving from surface-level annoyance to the deeper hurt of their shared past. Next steps. 1. The date video, a fan-requested challenge where they have to go on a fake date to a place they used to love as kids. 2. The breaking point, a scene where they get stuck somewhere, elevator library, and finally have to address the missing emails mystery. The fake date was a disaster before it even started. Professor Holloway had forwarded us a list of fan requests from the comment section of our first video. Apparently, the internet had decided that we needed to go to a cat cafe. I'm allergic to cats, Leo, I said, leaning against the brick wall of the journalism building. Leo was busy checking his reflection in the darkened screen of his phone. I know. That's why I told the professor we should go to the old pier instead. You know, the one with the overpriced arcade and the smell of dead fish. I froze. My heart did a slow, painful somersault. The pier? Why there? Because, Leo said, his voice losing its performative edge for a fleeting second. It's where we went the day before I moved. You bought me a giant blue cotton candy that turned my tongue into a Smurfs for 3 days. It's cinematic, Daniel. Think of the engagement. I hate you, I said, but I was already walking toward his car. The pier. Take 1. The wind was biting, whipping my hair into my eyes as Leo set up the tripod on the wooden slats of the pier. The ocean churned gray and restless beneath us. Okay, look lively, sunshine, Leo chirped, hitting record. We're here at the pier, a romantic stroll for the nation's favorite toxic duo. It's not a stroll if I'm trying to outrun you, I muttered, staring at the horizon. Leo swung the camera around, framing both of us. He looked effortless, leather jacket, wind-swept hair, a smile that could melt glaciers. I looked like a Victorian orphan who had lost his favorite coal shovel. We have a list of questions from the enemy duo stand, Leo said, holding up a crumpled piece of paper. Question 1. Who was the first to realize they hated the other? Me, I said instantly. The moment you moved and didn't send a postcard, or a text, or a smoke signal. Leo's smile faltered, but he kept the camera steady. Actually, I think it was me. When I sent 17 emails to an address that apparently didn't exist anymore. I never changed my email, Leo. It was daniel.foster@email.com. Original, right? Leo stopped. He lowered the camera, his brow furrowing. Daniel Foster? No, it was Dan Foster. I stared at him. The sound of the waves seemed to grow louder, filling the silence between us. My email has always been my full name. Dan Foster was the bully in our 3rd grade class, the one who used to put glue in my hair. Leo's face went through a kaleidoscope of expressions: confusion, realization, and then a haunting, pale horror. You're telling me, for 3 years, I was pouring my heart out to a 30-year-old construction worker from Ohio, probably thought I was a very emotional stalker. You sent my childhood trauma to a stranger because you couldn't remember my name? I felt a laugh bubbling up, not a happy one, but the hysterical kind that happens when you realize your life is a sitcom written by a sadist. I remembered your name. I was 10. I was scared. I thought you were ignoring me. Leo shouted over the wind. A group of teenagers walked by, staring at us. One of them pointed a phone. Are you guys the YouTube couple? A girl asked, her eyes wide. We're not a couple, I snapped at the same time Leo yelled. We're having a moment. The girl giggled and ran off, likely uploading the footage before she even hit the end of the pier. The breaking point. The sun began to set, bleeding orange and violet across the water. The date was officially over, but we were still standing there. The camera was off. The tripod was packed away. I didn't hate you, Leo said quietly. He wasn't looking at me now. He was looking at the old claw machine at the entrance of the arcade. I just thought you were better off without the loud kid, dragging you down in your new, quiet life. I didn't have a life, Leo, I said, my voice barely a whisper. I had a void. I spent 3 years waiting for a sign that I actually mattered to you. And when it didn't come, I decided I'd never let anyone matter that much again. Leo turned to me, The distance between us was barely a foot, but it felt like miles of unsaid words. He reached out, his hand hovering near my shoulder before he pulled it back, mirroring the video that had gone viral. "Daniel," he started, his voice thick. "Don't," said, stepping back. "We have enough footage for the project. I'm going home." I turned and walked away, my boots thudding rhythmically against the wood. I didn't look back. If I had, I might have seen him standing there in the fading light, looking exactly like the boy who had once promised to never leave. Back at the dorms, the edit. I sat at my desk, the blue light of my laptop stinging my tired eyes. I was supposed to be editing the peer date video. I scrolled through the footage. There was a clip Leo had filmed while I wasn't looking. I was leaning against the railing, the sunset behind me looking smaller than usual. I looked. Lonely. Then the camera panned slightly, catching Leo's reflection in a nearby window. He wasn't looking at the scenery. He wasn't looking at the camera. He was looking at me with an expression of such raw, aching regret that it made my breath hitch. It wasn't the look of an enemy. It wasn't even the look of a friend. It was the look of someone who had found something precious they thought they'd lost forever, and was now terrified they were going to break it again. I didn't cut the clip. I didn't delete it. Instead, I titled the file, "The Truth." The journalism lab was a graveyard of dead deadlines at 2 a.m. The only light came from the flickering fluorescent tube in the corner and the harsh blue glow of my dual monitors. I was staring at the timeline of our latest video, the peer date, and my mouse hovered over the export button. I had kept the clip of Leo looking at me. I'd kept the part where his voice cracked. It was good journalism, I told myself. It was authentic storytelling. It was also a suicide mission for my sanity. The heavy door creaked open, and the unmistakable sound of scuffing sneakers echoed through the room. I didn't need to look up to know who it was. The air in the room simply felt more crowded. "You're still here," Leo said. His voice was stripped of the theater projection. It was just Leo. "Editing doesn't do itself," I replied, my eyes fixed on the screen. "Unlike acting, it requires actual labor." He didn't bite. Usually he'd have a comeback about the art of the craft, but he just pulled up a rolling chair and sat down next to me. Too close. He smelled like the cold night air and that same damn cologne. "Did you keep it in?" he asked quietly. "Keep in?" "The part where I admitted I'm an idiot who emailed a stranger for 3 years. "Yes," said, finally turning to look at him. "It's the only part of the video where you aren't being a caricature of yourself. People like it when you're human, Leo. It's a rare sight." Leo leaned forward, resting his chin on his hand, staring at the frozen frame of his own face on my monitor. "I wasn't being a caricature. I was being what I thought you wanted." I scoffed. "You thought I wanted a loud-mouthed egomaniac who treats every conversation like an audition?" "No," Leo said, his eyes shifting from the screen to me. "I thought you wanted someone who wasn't hurting, someone who had moved on. If I came back and I was just the same sad kid who missed his best friend, then the fact that you weren't talking to me would have actually killed me. So I became someone who didn't care, someone who was too busy being fabulous as to notice the silence." I felt a lump form in my throat, hard and cold. "You were always good at improv." "I'm tired of it, Dan." He reached out, and this time, he didn't pull back. His hand rested on the desk, inches from mine. "The comments are right. We have more chemistry than actual couples, but it's not because we're flirting. It's because I've spent 10 years subconsciously looking for you in every room I walked into." I looked down at his hand. His fingers were tapping a nervous rhythm on the desk. This was the moment where I should have made a sarcastic comment. I should have told him he was being dramatic. I should have walked out. "I didn't look for you," I whispered, my voice traitorous. "I tried to bury you. I tried to make sure that if I ever saw you again, I wouldn't feel a single thing." And Liz was a dare. I looked up at him. The sarcasm was gone. The done with everyone's shield was shattered. "And I'm a terrible journalist, Leo, 'cause I'm completely biased. I still hate you for leaving, but I think I hate the silence even more. The aftermath. I don't hate you scene." 3 days later, the video went live. It wasn't just viral, it was an explosion. The Truth reached 1 million views in 4 hours. The enemy duo tag was trending globally. People weren't just laughing anymore, they were invested. We were sitting in the campus cafeteria, trying to ignore the whispers. A group of girls 2 tables over was literally sobbing while looking at their phones. "They're asking for a live stream," Leo said, showing me his phone. "They want a cue, real time." "No." At stabbing a fry. "Absolutely not." "Daniel, look at the comments." I looked. "Comment, if they don't resolve this, I'm failing my finals. I can't focus. Are they okay? Did they talk after the peer?" "Comment, Daniel looks like he's finally breathing again. Please don't let this be a script." "It's not a script," I muttered. "Then tell them," Leo said. He pulled out his phone, hit the go live button on Instagram, and propped it up against a napkin dispenser before I could protest. "Hey guys," Leo said to the camera, but his eyes stayed on me. "We're live." And we're talking. The viewer count climbed. 1K, 5K, 10K. Comments were a blur of light. One question popped up in giant text. Do you actually hate each other? I looked at the lens. Then I looked at Leo. He looked terrified. The Chaos King was finally speechless. I don't hate him, I said. The words felt heavy, like stones being dropped into a deep well. Leo blinked, his breath hitching. You don't? No, I said, turning fully toward him, ignoring the thousands of people watching through the screen. That's the problem. Hating you was easy. It was a hobby. It kept me busy. But not hating you, that's a lot of work I wasn't prepared for. Leo smiled, that soft, genuine smile that always used to make me feel like I was the only person in the world. Yeah, it's exhausting, isn't it? Shut up, I said, but I didn't move away when he leaned his shoulder against mine. The final project presentation wasn't held in a classroom. Because of the unprecedented public interest, Professor Holloway had moved it to the small campus auditorium. There were cameras at the back, official university ones, and about 200 students who had treated their seats like front-row tickets to a movie premiere. Leo was pacing backstage, his usual bravado replaced by a frantic energy. He kept adjusting his tie, then loosening it, then checking his hair in the reflection of a fire extinguisher. You're going to burn a hole in the floor, I said, leaning against the wall with my hands shoved in my pockets. This is the series finale, Dan. The season closer. The fans are demanding a climax. He turned to me, his eyes wide. What if we're boring now that we aren't yelling? What if the chemistry was just us being repressed? I looked at him, the boy who had been my entire world at 7, and the man who had turned it upside down at 21. Leo, shut up. We were never boring. We were just loud about the wrong things. He stopped pacing. A slow, mischievous grin spread across his face. You're being sweet. Is that a Daniel Foster first? Should I record this? Go out there before I change my mind and transfer to a different state. I threatened, though we both knew I wasn't going anywhere. The finale. We walked onto the stage to a level of applause that was frankly embarrassing for a journalism elective. We sat on the stools in front of the giant projector screen. The final video played, a montage of our bickering, the peer realization, and the quiet moments in the lab where we thought the cameras were off. When the lights came up, the room was silent. Then the Q&A started. A student in the third row stood up, holding her phone like a microphone. This is for both of you. Everyone online is asking the same thing. You've gone from enemies to whatever this is. The Enemy Duo brand is based on you hating each other. So for the record, are you dating now? The air in the room left. Leo looked at me, his mouth slightly open, his theater brain clearly scrambling for a witty, non-committal response that would keep the followers guessing. He started to reach for the mic. Well, you see, the nature of our dynamic is, yes. The word cut through Leo's rambling like a knife. Leo froze. He turned his head so fast I thought he'd get whiplash. The audience let out a collective, high-pitched gasp that sounded like a tea kettle reaching its boiling point. Wait, Leo whispered, the mic still live in his hand. Wait, what? I leaned into my own microphone, my expression as deadpan as ever, though my heart was doing a drum solo against my ribs. You heard me, yes. We're dating. We are? Leo asked, his voice cracking in a way that was definitely going to be sampled in 1,000 TikTok edits by midnight. Since when? You didn't tell me. Since about 10 seconds ago when I decided I was tired of you overthinking the script, I said, looking him dead in the eye. I felt a surge of that old sarcastic power. You talk too much, Leo. I figured this was the only way to get you to be quiet for 5 minutes. Leo stared at me, his brain finally catching up. A flush crept up his neck, turning his ears a bright, brilliant red. He dropped the cool guy act entirely. He looked like the kid from 5th Street, again complete, utterly vulnerable and ridiculously happy. I have so many follow-up questions, Leo stammered. Save them for the vlog, I said, a small, genuine smirk tugging at the corners of my mouth. Before he could respond, I reached over, grabbed the lapel of his jacket and pulled him toward me. I didn't care about the cameras, the professor's grade, or the millions of views. I just wanted to close the gap that had existed for 10 years. The kiss was short, somewhat clumsy, and tasted like the coffee Leo had been drinking all morning. The auditorium erupted into a wall of sound cheering, screaming, and the frantic clicking of shutters. When I pulled back, Leo looked like he'd been hit by a freight train of pure dopamine. He was breathless, his hair even messier than usual. Okay, Leo whispered into the microphone, his voice shaky but grinning. That was a very strong plot twist. End of the segment, Leo, I said, standing up and heading for the wings. Let's go home. Stop making videos. We just changed the title. The Enemy Duo became the Foster Morgan Project. We still argued about who forgot to buy milk, about Leo's dramatic rehearsal schedules, and about how many cats were too many for our future apartment, but silence was gone. Every now and then, I'd look at the comments. User 888, I miss the fighting. Daniel Foster official replied, don't worry, he's currently singing show tunes in the shower at 6 a.m. The fight is scheduled for 6:15. I closed my laptop and felt a pair of arms wrap around my shoulders from behind. Leo rested his chin on the top of my head, smelling of sunshine and chaos. What are you writing, Dan? A grocery list, I lied, leaning back into him. And don't call me that. Make sure to put blue cotton candy on there, he whispered, kissing my temple. For old time's sake, I sighed. I didn't pull away. My peaceful life was gone, replaced by something loud, bright, and exhausting. I wouldn't have it any other way. The silence in our shared apartment was a different kind of quiet than the one I'd spent 10 years cultivating. That old silence had been heavy, like a dusty museum exhibit. This was just the absence of noise, and it was surprisingly easy to breathe in. I sat on the sofa, a notebook open in my lap, trying to draft an article about campus infrastructure that I knew absolutely no one, not even Professor Holloway, would find interesting. My mind kept drifting to the hallway. Thump, slide, thump. I didn't even have to look up. Leo, if you're trying to sneak up on me to start a jump scare compilation for the followers, I can see your reflection in the window. The sliding stopped. A head of messy dark hair popped around the door frame. Leo wasn't wearing his stage face. He was wearing a pair of my old sweatpants and a t-shirt that said I'm the lead, which he'd bought ironically but wore sincerely. You're no fun, he pouted, stepping into the living room. Your situational awareness is a threat to my creative process. Your creative process involves me dropping my laptop in shock. It's an expensive hobby. Leo didn't retreat. He never did anymore. He walked over and flopped onto the sofa, landing with his head in my lap and his legs draped over the armrest. It was a complete invasion of space, the kind of thing that would have sent the Daniel of 6 months ago into a spiral of irritation. Now I just rested my hand on his shoulder, my thumb absent-mindedly tracing the collar of his shirt. The internet is losing its mind, Leo said, staring up at me. He held up his phone. Someone found a photo of us from the 3rd grade, the one where we're both holding that giant toad by the creek. They've labeled it the origin story. I looked down at the screen. We were so small then. I looked miserable even at 8, and Leo looked like he was about to explode with joy. Some things never change. We look like idiots, I muttered. We look like best friends, Leo corrected softly. He reached up, his fingers catching the edge of my glasses to push them up the bridge of my nose. Are you happy, Dan? Or is the enemy duo brand too much to live up to? I looked at him, really looked at him. The sarcasm I usually used as a shield felt heavy, so I set it aside. The brand is exhausting, I admitted, closing my notebook. But the reality is, okay, it's better than the silence. Leo's expression shifted. The playfulness drained away, replaced by that raw, terrifyingly honest look that always made my heart skip. He reached up, cupping the back of my neck, pulling me down just enough so our foreheads touched. I'm not going anywhere this time, he whispered. I've updated my contact list. I've backed up my cloud. I've memorized your middle name and your favorite brand of pens. You're stuck with the noise. I know, I said, closing my eyes. That's the problem. Leo smiled against my skin. Yeah, I know. For a journalism student, I was surprisingly bad at finding the right words for moments like this. So I didn't try to find any. I just sat there in the quiet, the new, good kind of quiet, and let the chaos human finally rest.